Alright, so let's jump into getting the Stripe style login page set up. We're going to go straight up into the top left corner to select from our pages drop down. We're going to click add new and then web page. So we're going to open up a page and we'll call it str-login page. You can call it whatever you want, but this is just to set us up a new page to work from where we can start this build from scratch and we can start to put in place. I'm just going to change my zoom there. We can put in place all the sort of, building blocks for this particular page that we're building. So first things first, we're going to click on the page in the elements tree, go across to layout, change the container layout to column, and we're going to change this default builder width to 1200. That's going to sort of expand out the area that we're working in, and then we're going to change the min height to 800. Awesome, so we've got our page set up, nice and simple. We're going to change the page title to login, or let's change it to access. And the page title that we're changing up here is what's going to appear at the top. Once we go into a new tab, it's going to show as that tab just saying access. We'll keep it pretty simple for now though. Let's go down to our asset search box, search for group, select a group, and then drop it anywhere onto the page. And this is going to be the group that we're working from. So we can select, so we can call this group page. It's essentially where we're going to put all of our elements while we're working. I might just move the element selector just across to the side. So now what we can do is we're going to expand this group out to fill the page, and it'll give us somewhere, as I mentioned, to work from. So we select fit height to content or deselect fit height to content, and that's going to pop out so that our group page is now expanded and showing on the whole page. We're going to leave the padding for the moment, and what we're going to do is first set up the stripe style sort of gradient in the background that appears behind the login page. So we're going to search for floating, and we're going to select floating group. We're going to then click onto the page, and we'll call this floating group gradient. Super important that we're naming everything correctly. It gets very messy very fast if you're building out your app and you're not naming things well or correctly. Deselect fit height to content on floating group gradient. Unselect or deselect, make this element fixed width. So floating group gradient, which is sitting as an overlay in an actual layer, is now taking up the whole page. We go into our asset search box again, type in HTML, and this time we're going to drop this. We're going to select it and then drop it into our floating group gradient. So we can see that it's sitting underneath the floating group gradient there, and we'll call this gradient, or let's just call it color. HTML color, the Aussie spelling of color. Get rid of the text that is in the HTML editor. Select layout. We'll then open this one up to be, or deselect, make this element fixed width. We'll deselect fit height to content as well. And we'll head back to appearance on HTML color. And what we're going to do now is drop in that custom code that I've got in the description for this video. And that's going to allow us to basically create this gradient using CSS code, which will essentially display the same sort of color gradient that Stripe has, or a very similar one to what Stripe has sitting behind the login elements on their login page. So we go in, we're going to paste that code in, and what you'll notice in here is that, don't worry too much about this. I'm not going to go into why we're using it or why we're doing it this way, other than the fact that it is probably the quickest and simplest way to do this on Bubble. This is literally just some code that I've got from ChatGPT, so it's something that you don't have to be super technical to be able to do. But the one thing that we do want to recognize or take notice of in here is this hashtag floating underscore group, and this is essentially targeting the ID attribute of our HTML element. Sounds super complicated, of our floating group gradient. It sounds super complicated, but it's very, very straightforward to actually implement an ID attribute. All you need to do is essentially head over to settings, head into general, scroll right down to the bottom of the page, and then just down in the bottom here we can see expose the option to add an ID attribute to HTML elements. Select it there, just tick that on. We can now head back to the design panel, and when we're on this floating group gradient, what we're going to do is we're going to give an ID attribute to floating group gradient, which is this one here. So what we're going to do, we're going to call it floating underscore group. So we select floating group gradient, scroll down to the bottom on here, and you'll see ID attribute now down the bottom. type in floating underscore group, click away from that, and we can now actually preview the page, and this should show us floating group gradient, or it should show us that sort of cut across gradient in the same style that Stripe has on their login page. So we'll click the preview button and see what that looks like. Alright, so once the page loads, it should be looking something like this. It just didn't let me load initially because I was on a private browser or an incognito window, but yeah, it should be looking something like this. And there is one change that we need to make to this, which is bringing this up, bringing the height of this, or actually restricting the height from the top of this diagonal line across, so it sits further up our page. So we'll jump back in to the editor. We're going to go across to the floating group gradient, and in min height, so your floating group gradient, go to layer, and in min height, type in 500 and make this element fixed height. And so now when we open up our preview, it should work now. It's going to sit a lot higher, and we've got debug mode on there. But if we get rid of that, it's just disappeared. What I did notice before when I was trying to get out of the incognito mode is that if you turn your floating group on and off, it may just be a bug that I'm experiencing, that can make it visible again. But it should be looking as I showed, where it's sort of sitting across the screen, and once we change the height to fixed height of 500, it's going to sit from about there up to the top corner. Awesome. So now we can move on to, we're actually just going to hide this group for now, or we can leave that open. We're going to move on to the actual login elements now that are going to sit in the middle of the page. So we'll select group page. We're going to go into search assets. We're going to type in group. We're going to click group and then select to drop that somewhere in group page. So we can even select, just hover onto group page, click, and then that's going to drop it into the middle. And we're going to call this group login actions. Well, actually we'll do sign up, because I think the main page that I want to do here is the sign up, or the main elements that I want to do are the sign up elements. So I'm just looking across at some other designs that I've got similar to this so that I can reference them. So what we wanted to be doing first is building a bit of a sort of central box for the actual, I guess, sign in or sign up sections to sit in. And we're going to do that with group sign up that we've got here. So we're going to first of all do our min width to be 60%. So change min width to 60, make this element fixed width, change it to 60%, and then the horizontal alignment we want to do is in the middle. Now in terms of padding for group sign up, what we're going to do is top padding of 96, bottom padding of 16, and then we can leave all the rest. Now in this group, we're going to be adding in some elements to sort of sit in. First is a sign up box, so it's going to have sign into your account as some sort of top text, email, and then an input, password, and then an input, and then some information. Sorry, I have made a mistake there. This is actually going to be sign in, not sign up. And then below that, it's going to have a sign in button, signing with Google, signing with passkey, signing with SSO, so a couple buttons there. And then we're also going to be able to click on the forgot your password button as well. So we'll get started by adding in the actual elements for the sign in section. And so we'll go back into the element search, or the asset search box. We'll search for group again, and we're going to drop that into group sign in. In this group, or with this group, we're going to call it group sign in element, sign in element. We're going to uncheck fit height to content, and we're going to change the min width for this to 60%, and then make this element fixed width. Now click across the horizontal alignment again to put this in the middle, and with this element we're going to do 36 top padding, and then 2 padding left, bottom left and right. So just a tiny bit of padding on the left, the bottom and the right, but then 36 padding up the top. Awesome, so we can drop in our text element now. So I'll just do that slowly again. So if we select text element from the search asset box, go into group in, let's just change that to sign in element. Go into group sign in element, drop the text element in there, and this is going to be size 24 with 700 weight. So we're going to change the size to 24. If you haven't already, actually I'll cover it in the the introduction video or the style, so that's all good. We'll keep the fonts. It should be, your font should be Inter. We're going to change the size to 24, change the weight to 700, and we're going to write sign in to your account. We might even change it up a bit and do access your account, just so we make it unique to the build that we're doing. And the font color is going to be, for this sort of heading font, we want it to be slightly lighter than a hard sort of black color. And that color that we're going to use, or that style that we're going to use, is heading 5. So we're just going to change it, and that should be the heading 5 preset that you set up at the start of this video. So it's a marginal difference, but there is a difference, just in having that really harsh sort of black color. And then under that, we're just going to copy this text. So just Control C, and we might even right click and copy, right click again and paste. And this time we're going to go back to that body 16 text. Apologies, that's our body 14 text. So we're now going to put in here email. We can right click that, copy, right click and then paste. We're going to write password. Accidentally just previewed the app, so we're going to type in password. And then we're going to copy that, paste it again. And this time we'll type in remember me. Fantastic. And the one change we're going to make to the remember me text is we're going to go down, we're going to change the text weight to 400. Actually, let's change it, to 500, just make it a little bit lighter. We're now going to go and search for an input, and we're going to select the input, and then we're going to drop it just under email, between email and password in there. Awesome. We're now going to go across and change the style for this input to input form. So that was the one we set up at the start. We'll get rid of the placeholder text, select the layout tab, open up the width all the way so it's edge to edge, and then we're going to change the fixed height. I think we're going to make this 44, so slightly narrower, or not as big as it was. Just fix up some of the styling now. I just realized there's a bit of an issue with the styling. And we're going to name this, we'll go up and name this email sign in. Input email sign in. Fantastic. Now we can change the content format here to email. And if we drop out of that, we can see that we've got our email section, we've got the input sign in below it. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click on input email sign in, right click on password and then click paste. It'll drop it below. We can change this one to input password sign in, all one word, or the password sign in section is. Change the content format to password, and then what we might do is just group these together just so it's nice and neat. So we're going to click on email, hold shift on your keyboard, left click on input email sign in so that we've got both of them selected. You can also click on it there and then click on text email and then click on input email sign in, right click them over in your elements tree, and then group elements in a column container. Fantastic. So we'll call this email inputs. Let's just do inputs. Go to the layout tab, apply gap spacing between them. And I think this gap spacing, again, I'm just sort of referencing a setup that I've done. We're going to do a row gap of 12. So just tick apply gap spacing, row gap of 12. Click on password, hold shift, click on input password sign in. So exactly the same again. We want to select both of them. Right click input password sign in, group elements in a column container, and then apply gap spacing between elements again of 12. Awesome. It's looking really good so far. What we're going to do now is just add in a icon. We're going to, again, I should slow that down when I'm doing that. We're going to select an icon from the search asset section or drop down or area. Select icon, drop it above text remember me, so it should be sitting on the screen looking like this. We're then going to click on the icon, go across and search for check. Select a box that it just looks like that. It's like a small square. We're going to select the icon color to be gray. I think 40 is good. Yeah, let's keep it as 40. And then what we can do is just selecting the icon again, go over to layout, and change the padding to 2 and the width to 25 and the height to 25 as well. What that'll do is it'll just mean that the icon, we have a little bit more flexibility with how we position it. If you have a lot of padding on an icon element, it does sometimes make it difficult to line up the text really well. So what we're going to do now is just go across to our elements tree, select the icon, holding shift, select the text remember me, right click, group elements, and this time in a row container instead of a column container. So we want them side by side here instead of on top of each other as we've got in the password and the email groups. I will come back and name this group, by the way. Now in group F though, we're going to call this one remember me, group remember me. And we're just going to get rid of the min height so that we're not sitting with this box any bigger than it needs to be. Click on remember me, then under layout, go to vertical alignment, drop it into the center, click back on group remember me. You can do this on the side, apply gap spacing between elements. We're going to do a column gap of, let's try 8. Let's try 6. You know what, 4. Let's do 4, nice and tight. And then we want it sort of sitting really close there, but we're obviously, it's really a gap of 6 because we do have some padding around that icon. So 6 plus the gap of 4 is actually, 4 plus the padding of 2, is 6. And then what we're going to do is just rename this password group, and then that's going to be the last thing for this section. So we'll go in, we'll do it up here. We'll rename this to group password group. Awesome. So that is the first section of this video done. Really, really good. We've made lots of progress so far, and we'll keep going with it in the next video.